Hi, this is Jorn, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hello and welcome to another interview from Sonic Perspectives. My name is Samantha, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with the man behind one of the most iconic voices in hard rock and heavy metal. With a history in metal bands such as Masterplan, guest appearances on the metal opera Avantasia, and an impressive career as a solo artist, I am happy to welcome Mr. Jorn Lande. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let's dive right in to the latest excitement in your
Sure.
world. Your latest cover album, Heavy Rock Radio 2, Executing the Classics, came out just a few weeks ago now. It's apparent just by its title that this is the follow-up to your earlier cover album, Heavy Rock Radio, which was released in 2016. What made you want to do a second one?
Well, all these great songs that we grew up with and, never got to play or perform. So it's, writing stuff, collaborating with people, and, just so time consuming. And, suddenly I'm, up there now, and time goes by. So I thought it was the right time to do this. And some of these songs I wanted to change a little bit, with arrangements and stuff. So I carried those with me for a long time, or at least some of them. So it's a good timing now to do this. And the first one was pretty successful, did well. So record company liked the idea of doing another one, and obviously to do some of these songs live is also something that I would love to do in the future. So, as we get older, also these, some of these classics are so well written, and it's a shame if they are forgotten as well. And even if you write stuff yourself, I don't think, everything I did was, always fantastic. Some good stuff, on every record, but maybe there's even a couple of potential classic albums here and there, but, you should always recognize the good songs, and also today when we have a, high pace, and we have a lot of pressure. So I think people don't have time to dive into every record that gets released, So I think also it's a good thing to do some of these more known older songs, at least my generation and a bit older, remember those songs. And so it's a good combo, you get to play those songs again and introduce them to the younger generations, as well as, giving it to the people that remember the originals. So, good thing.
You just mentioned that these definitely go back a while, and that's something that I noticed when I listened to it. Quite a number of these songs have first debuted in the mid to late 1960s, which is right around when you were born.
Yeah.
So was this music an influence to you growing up, or did you happen to find it later in life?
Well, I was born in the late 60s, so I remember some of these songs because my father used to play some of these songs, and of course they were on the radio as well, some of them. So I think it's natural. Like Needles and Pins, for example. I think that's a song, and it's a good example of a song that it's a big classic, but about to be forgotten among the younger generations, at least in the rock and metal scene. I mean, if you ask a 20-year-old today, I doubt he ever heard about the song. Maybe he heard it through his grandparents or his parents at some point, but and again, to do these songs with a different music arrangement, makes it more appealing to the new generations as well. So, yeah, Needles and Pins really is a good example for that, and I basically just chose songs that were good songs, and songs. Smokey did that song in the 70s, and it was a big hit in Scandinavia, Germany as well, and so that's also a reason. I mean, I never heard the original at first. First version I heard was the Smokey version. So, and I still like that to date. So even though it's it's very soft and poppy and all that, and maybe a bit outdated if you look at the times we live in, but we're all children of our time. So.
Well, I will say that as someone who's 21, I was introduced to a lot of new songs through this latest album of yours.
Okay, cool. That's great.
I did notice that the first album definitely went with some of the bigger classics that a lot of people would know, and this one seemed to take more of that deeper dive.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to do a record with only well-known songs or songs that were big hits at some point, or in recent years. So some songs are evergreens that are still there and probably played on radio and stuff. But others, like for example, "Lonely Nights," which is a Bryan Adams song, it's probably one of the best Bryan Adams songs. But not too many people are familiar with that song unless you're into music history and or a huge Bryan Adams fan. If you look at all these other songs, then that song kind of gets a bit, I would say, like a secret treat, something. So I love that song, and when it came out, it was played on the radio in the U.S. I know, but probably it was more popular, in the New York area. And even though I read that it entered the charts, it still, never became this evergreen that would be played over and over. So it's a shame because it's such a great song. Should get a second chance. And I know Uriah Heep recorded this song as well. And when was it? Probably late 80s or something. But now another 30, 40 years have gone by. So yeah.
Definitely. It does sound like you connected really deeply with these songs. So given that, what is the difference, would you say, between the original Heavy Rock Radio and the second album?
Well, some of the songs are a bit more obscure or not so obvious, I would say. But, it's not that different in a way. I mean, the concept is the same. You have some more typical harder rock classics like Bad Attitude by Deep Purple, and you have Nightlife, which is an old Foreigner song, and so. But I think the songs are a little bit less obvious on this record, and the constellation of songs put together and the flow of the album, is maybe a bit more interesting than, at least to the ones that still care about albums as a physical item that you can buy. So, yeah, the interesting song is maybe to mention New York Minute, which is a Don Henley song. We turned that into more like a melodic power ballad, kind of, without disturbing the original feel too much. So I think that came out great, and that's kind of an original choice, I feel, and not too many people covered that song. I never saw anything, I guess, not something that was not in the rock scene, at least. So, and it's kind of like a sequel to Hotel California as well, which we did on the first Heavy Rock Radio album. So yeah, it's kind of a tradition now. It's getting to be.
It's pretty incredible that you're able to pay such tribute to these songs decades later.
I think things have gotten to be a bit too stereotyped in general in the music scene. I mean, a lot of good stuff coming out still today, but there was just something with the diversity and the way people wrote songs back then, also more sincere, coming from within and so on. So I just miss that in my life, basically. So writing my own stuff is fine, but some of these songs were so well crafted and performed that it's also a great challenge to go there and into the studio and work on these songs and go back to that kind of that soul, and you bring that heart into the performance, and that's also it's a challenge as well. Some of the songs sound simple, but it's not that simple to make them come out great on record. So even though they're not necessarily hard to play, but something with this kind of delivery that is it's not so usual today because people are a bit more, I think, cold and clinical with what they do. So it's definitely, the soul and the heart of the music was more present back then. So that's what I grew up with. So in that sense, it's very natural to do. Melodies changed a lot with the years. Now it seems like people don't do too many variations when they write a song. If it's a heavy rock or a metal song, it's most of these bands sound pretty much the same. Maybe different style of singers and some combos that are different, but it's very stereotyped these days. And so I love the fact that these records can bring some new energies to the market and personally as well. So yeah.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about just how different the music industry and those songs are today from the era that these songs came from. Did you grow up with all of these songs, or were some of them chosen specifically for this album?
I guess most of them I grew up with, but once in a while I'll hear a song and I'll think, wow, this is it would be great to Jornify, which we kind of a term we invented for when we started the first heavy rock radio album, to Jornify a song, which means we try to imagine how the song would sound if we wrote it ourselves. So it's kind of that approach, and that way we're also true to the Jorn sound and the style we represent when we do our original stuff. So it brings everything together. If it's a good song and if I have an idea, on how it could sound when we do it the Jorn style, then it could very well end up on a heavy rock radio album. And I guess it's obvious now that we have to do another one at some point. Number 3 is already kind of it's not in the works. Well, not physically, but mentally we're thinking about it. And I've got some songs that I wrote down, but the list is endless. You get like 50 to 100 songs and you're going to pick like 10 or 12 or something. So it's, it's also, a process, but if you got the energy and you make it a priority, you can, maybe I can do all those songs in the future. So let's see.
Well, the possibilities are definitely endless, but I'm curious, have you ever unsuccessfully tried to make a cover of a song and it just didn't work out?
Well, some of the songs are not always the best. I have some idea, or we have an idea and we think it's going to come out great and we think it's brilliant, but then in the end we realize it was much more difficult than we thought. Sometimes you also think that a song that you grew up with and it seems to be like a natural choice, it just doesn't work. But most of the songs I've used in various ways, either throughout the years. If I did a cover in the past or something, I would use it for something maybe like a Japanese bonus track or some limited edition bonus track or something. So they were used for something, and we tried to do them as good as we could, for the circumstances. And maybe even if we held back a couple of songs for a couple of years, and then I would do something else, and record company would ask for a bonus track, and I would look in the secret drawer, see what I could find, and I would listen to it. And some of the songs don't sound as bad now or after a couple of years, and then you listen again and you realize, well, I think we recorded this one a bit too fast, and it lacks some kind of vibe or groove or feel. But then you work on it and you kind of rediscover the song again, and you may make it acceptable, and then you add it to some record or as a bonus. So yeah, not everything is a Feinschmecker, as they say. Reason for the song being the first single and being the opening track of the new album. Winning, for example, which is an old Russ Ballard song, first released in 1976. Then I heard it a bit later with Santana, who did a cover of this one in 81, I think, 81, 82 or something. Yeah. I loved Santana, so I discovered that song through that band. And their singer at the time, Alex Ligetwood, probably one of the greatest singers of all time. Really impressed with what he's doing. That song came out great. We added some Scottish bagpipes to that one, which the original didn't have. And it's kind of funny because Alex, the original singer from the version I got influenced by, is kind of he's from Scotland, so it's kind of funny. Everything worked with those Scottish bagpipes, and kind of it's like a full circle. So yeah, it's I think it's great to do these songs and bring them into the Millennium. A New York Minute, for example, which I mentioned before, is a very it's very slow and it's an emotional track, and but at the same time it might not be too interesting for a metalhead, for example, to listen to that song, but maybe some of those people will enjoy the song more now. I experienced the same with Hotel California. A lot of people told me that they were never really into Eagles or that style of music at all. But and some even say they didn't really like Hotel California from the beginning. And I said, how is it possible? That's a masterpiece, And but then they said, well, now we heard your version. We like it and we play it frequently. So everything can be positive in that sense.
Would you say that you want to attract people that might not have listened to you before with the covers, or would you want to introduce this music to people that like you but might not have heard the song?
I think it's a little of both. It's very important to me that I don't try to take credit for something I didn't do from the beginning. So because these artists were a big inspiration to me, and that's also one of the reasons why I'm recording these songs. So, but at the same time, of course, we're making a living from music, so we're trying to think a little bit or consider that aspect as well, how we can approach things to do something right with our future, and career. So, at the age I am now, I'm also thinking about doing things slightly differently. Playing more live, maybe less projects, or participating on less stuff, and do more of the stuff that really is closer to me, or closer to my heart. And it gets important with age, I guess. And also you want to be a better performer. Some of these songs I can sing very well. The band sounds very tight and powerful, and it's very enjoyable to play the songs. You also have to remember that some songs were written naturally in the rehearsal room by the originals. They were actually, standing or sitting there playing the songs, and you can feel that when you perform the songs, because sometimes these covers sound better than your own originals, so. Has to do with the fact that some songs you write today, they're done via the computer, or you're sitting there. You can do anything. You can copy and paste, and you can use any types of programs, and you don't really have to do it physically. So most of these songs were actually sung and played live when they were, or as they were written.
It's interesting to think about just how much writing music has changed. And you've definitely seen some of that, because you're pretty much one of the great powerhouses of the industry. You've been busy writing albums and touring, a cycle that hasn't let up since about the mid-90s. What do you do to keep up your endurance? How can you keep going so relentlessly over all these years?
Taking some time off every now and then is a good way to charge the batteries. I think if you love what you do, and you find some balance with your private life, that's the key right there. And when you love what you do and you find that balance, it's easy to be creative and to be productive. So the more stuff you force upon yourself, the more difficult it gets to continue for a long time, and then you're going to get burned out after a certain time. So I'm still going.
Speaking of balance, you just finished up an impressive tour with Avantasia, if I recall correctly. What was this tour experience like?
Like the other tours, I guess, but this time maybe even more enjoyable because, it's been so established now over the years that when we do something now, it's much more enjoyable. Plus, everyone's older, I guess. Also, we're able to see the whole thing as a different or from a different point of view. We enjoy spending time together, having fun on tour. It's also about professionality, trying to be efficient and to deliver the goods. So, I think everyone in that camp has the same philosophy, and so it's very comfortable actually to tour with that band, and we all have a good time together on the road. There's no issues or no divas. Of course, we're all crazy people, but and we're all quite different. So it's a lot of different personalities together, but we all come together through the music, and everyone respects each other, and yeah. So I used to listen to Jeff Tate, for example, when I was younger. I was a fan of some of the records back then, and it's all a mutual thing. I think this respect going on, and being blessed to be able to work with the people you look up to, and that you like to work with or like to listen to. So it's a blessing actually, and the same with Bob Catley. He's kind of the veteran of Avantasia. I've known him since the mid-90s from other stuff in the past. So he's a good friend of mine. But to be on stage with these people, it's just a joy. And there's no pressure. The only pressure you have is to keep well or stay healthy. And that's the whole thing. Stay healthy, get enough sleep. Then you can enjoy some of the days off and, the moment with the crowd on stage and everything. So, yeah, it's a great thing. Of course, Eric Martin, great guy, still acting like he did probably in 85, more experience, but still a youngster at heart. I call him the Frisco Kid. He's a funny guy as well as a very kind and good guy. So yeah, great singer.
Now that all of these big adventures have drawn to a close, that tour, you've finally released this album. What would you say is up next for you in your future? What can we look forward to?
Well, I'm writing some new stuff as we speak. Actually, I was just sitting with some new ideas here, so I have to do another original Jorn album in the next year and a half or two. So I started that now. Still new ideas put to the table. We'll do some shows this year. Not too many, no long tours, but some individual shows, both with the Jorn band as well as with Avantasia. And there's the 20th anniversary for Avantasia as well this year. So we're going to do a few selected shows throughout summer. And I think that's about it for now. And as I said, there might be another heavy rock radio at some point after the next original album. But that's as much as I would like to do a number 3 right now, I have to stick to my record deal, which is a part of the reality. So we have to do what we signed for.
Well, you're certainly giving us fans a lot to look forward to.
Well, yeah, I hope so. Let's see if I can write something.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. To close out our show, for our listeners, we'll play one song from Heavy Rock Radio 2. Which song would you want that to be?
Oh, which song that should be? New York Minute, I think.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much. I hope to talk to you again. Yeah, maybe I'll see you somewhere down the road. You never know.
I'd love that. All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Sonic Perspectives. You just heard an interview with Jorn, who released an album of covers titled Heavy Rock Radio 2, Executing the Classics. To catch interviews just like this one and many more, be sure to follow Sonic Perspectives on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're closing out today with New York Minute.
as years